Hi, homeroom. Happy Wednesday. It's May 6th, and I'm reading today chapter 24 of Framed. Chapter today is titled Let's Play Toast. When Agent Rivers said I was off the case, he meant it. As soon as I started to leave Ford's Theater, it was as if we'd never met. I turned back to say goodbye, but he'd already disappeared through some unseen exit. As the days passed, I had no idea if the leads I'd given him helped, or if the case had taken a dramatic turn, or maybe even hit a dead end. I constantly checked news sites to see if there were any breaking stories about Romanian mobsters being arrested, and every day I'd wait anxiously for my mother to get home from work, just in case she might have heard a rumor, or maybe seen federal agents sealing off Serena Miller's office. My only connection to the investigation was in the underground, where I still had my own case board on the wall. I tinkered with it all the time, straightening the cards, reorganizing them, hoping I might stumble onto some perfect alignment that revealed the mastermind. I was trying out a color coding system for the cards when I heard someone hustling down the stairs to the basement. Seconds later, Margaret burst into the room in full Margaret mode. I just had a genius idea. What is it? I asked expectantly. Does it have to do with Woman with a Parasol? Finding your birth parents? Did you figure out how to find one of the long-lost firefighters? No, no, and no. It has to do with you. Okay, I said, my enthusiasm slightly dampened. After all, I'm far less interesting than all those things. Still, I was happy that something was about to break the boredom. What's your idea? You're running for student council. I waited to see if there was any more to this brainstorm, but I could tell by her expression and the awkward silence that she had put it all out there. What's student council? I asked warily. What do you mean, what's student council? I think the question's pretty self-explanatory. Have you been living under a rock or something? She asked. No, but I have been living in Europe for the last 8 years, I reminded her. I don't think they have student council there, at least not at the schools where I went. That's too bad because it's really cool. There are 2 representatives from each homeroom and they get to help plan the school dances and organize fundraisers, and at the end of the year they take a trip to King's Dominion. We're talking epic roller coasters. Dances, fundraisers, roller coasters, I said, listing 3 things I considered far more terrifying than the Romanian mafia. Although, for the record, I had yet to confess any of these fears to Margaret. So what do you think? She asked expectantly. I don't know. I tried to fake a little enthusiasm, but the best I could do was, maybe? Why maybe? It'll be a great way to make new friends, and it's a lot of fun. Really? Because it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of work. She plopped into a chair, and all the oomph seemed to drain from her body. I don't know how to break this to you, Florian, but in the world of 12-year-olds, that stuff is fun. I know you got to be a part of something huge, and I think there are going to be times when you get to do that again. I mean, you're a consulting detective with the FBI. That's amazing. But it's also a part-time job. You can't just sit around rearranging the cards on your caseboard, waiting for a mysterious text. She looked up at the caseboard for a moment and smiled. Although I see what you're doing with the color coding, and I think it may be game-changing. It works, doesn't it? I said, glad that she saw it too. It helps your eye pull everything together. Even so, she replied, getting back on the subject, you have to embrace the fact that you are a 7th grader. Middle school has to be enough, because that's your full-time job. That's your life. So you can either run for student council tomorrow, or I can have your mom come down here and start giving you pep talks about how 7th grade will be 7th heaven, and why you need to be your true self. You'd never do that to me, I said. She gave me a sly smile and said, I think you know me well enough to know that's exactly what I'd do. Fine, I said in full surrender. Anything but that. So you're telling me you'll run? Yes, I answered reluctantly, trying to convince myself at the same time. If you say it's great, then it must be great. The next day, Jennifer Damon and I were elected to be the student council representatives for Mr. White's homeroom. 3 other girls ran, and I think I squeaked in because they split the popular girl vote, thereby leaving the geeky boy superhero fan club constituency all for me. Slowly but surely, I was taking baby steps into accepting my middle schoolness. When I woke up Saturday morning, it had been 12 days since I had left Ford's Theater. 12 days with no connection to the mystery. 12 days for my mind to reboot, just like they rebooted the security system at the National Gallery. That's when I had my revelation. Maybe I needed those 12 days off because when I finally saw it, it seemed as clear as day, and I marched right across the street to Margaret's house to tell her all about it. "We have betrayed our core beliefs," I exclaimed when she answered the door. "I have just had an epic realization." I blustered into her house, only to stop when I saw myself in a hallway mirror. "This is what it's like to be you, isn't it?" I said. "This is what it's like to burst into a room halfway through a conversation that the other person didn't even know had started." She looked at me and shook her head in total confusion. "I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about." "Ha!" I said, pointing at her. "And that's what it's like to be me. I never know either. You get used to it." "How have we betrayed our core beliefs?" "By ignoring toast," I told her. "What is it? Give me your best definition." "Okay," she said, getting into the spirit of it. "The theory of all small things ignores the seemingly obvious to consider only small details, so that when they're added together, they reveal an undeniable truth." I stopped and smiled. That's a really good way to put it. "Thanks, I may have practiced it in my head a couple thousand times. You know, because I'm me." "Unfortunately, that's not what we've been doing," I said. "We haven't been ignoring the obvious to focus on the details. We've only been looking for the details that make the big things more likely to seem true." "I think you may have lost me for part of that," she said. "I know. I'm not expressing it nearly as well as you, but I think we've been looking at this all wrong. I think we need to go back to playing toast again. That's how we got as far as we did." She looked at me as she considered this before finally saying, "Okay, where do you want to play?" I did not hesitate with my answer. "The Romanian embassy." "You can't be serious," she said. "Agent Rivers specifically said that you couldn't go near there. It's against the law." "No," I corrected. "He said the FBI couldn't investigate there. And when it comes to this case, I no longer have anything to do with the FBI. I am a civilian. The Romanian embassy is holding an open house to share its culture with the people of Washington. That's us." "Really?" she asked. "This is what you want to do?" "When will we ever get a chance to look at Nevrescu using toast?" I said. "This is our one shot. He'll be there schmoozing and mingling, and we'll be able to see him in action. And we're the only ones who can do it. The FBI can't go in. Only we can find these clues. Only we can ignore the version of him that's in the papers and look for the little details that will tell us the truth." "And what if he recognizes you?" "He won't," I said confidently. "It was just a coincidence that we were both at your soccer game." "Why do I have a feeling that if I don't agree to go, you're going to go without me?" "Because you're smart, and that's exactly what I'm going to do." "Okay, then I'll do it," she said. "Just let me get my sneakers. In case we have to run out of there." A few minutes later, we were on our way. I used cash to ride the metro because I'd purposely left my Smart Trip card home. I didn't want any alarms to let Agent Rivers know what I was doing. We got off at the DuPont Circle station and walked up Massachusetts Avenue for about half a mile. "There it is," I said, pointing across the street as we neared the embassy. The building was 3 stories tall and had a massive antenna on the roof. The front doors were open, and the sound of music could be heard from inside. "Once we set foot on the driveway, we're no longer in America," I reminded her as we crossed the street. "So let's make sure we don't do anything stupid." "Good tip," she said. "I don't suppose you memorized any of those Romanian phrases." "Just one." "Let me guess," she replied. "My hovercraft is full of monkeys." That's the one. We walked along the circular driveway until we reached the front door, where a bear-like man with a huge smile and a booming voice greeted us. "Bine ați venit." I smiled back at him and said, "Mulțumesc." "What just happened there?" Margaret asked once we stepped inside the entryway, where there was a grand staircase. "He said welcome, and I said thank you," I explained. "I thought you didn't speak Romanian," she said. "I don't," I answered, "but I can fake a little here and there. Like I said, it's similar to Italian." The festival was limited to the bottom floor, and while most of the rooms were open to the public, they were very specific about not going into any rooms with closed doors. In one room, a violinist performed traditional folk music, while in another, a stereo pulsated with Romanian dance pop. And everywhere we went, there was food. You've got to try these cabbage rolls, Margaret told me in between bites. Delicious. Do you see any sign of Nevrescu? I asked. No, she said, but I can take a look over there by that table full of fried food and sweet cheese. A pattern quickly emerged as we went from room to room. Wherever we'd go, I'd look for Nevrescu and Margaret would look for food. Her search had a much better success rate than mine, until we reached the library. The room was beautiful with antique furniture and dark wood bookcases that went from floor to ceiling. It was packed with people, and I spied Nevrescu in the opposite corner, doing the meet and greet with everyone. There he is, I said, nodding toward him. Excellent, mumbled Margaret as she finished swallowing a dessert known as papanache. And with excellent, I'm referring to both the fact that you found him and this dessert. OMG, it's delicious. Nick the Knife's social swirl seemed to stay in that particular area, so I found a spot where we were somewhat shielded from his view by a large cabinet. If he has no idea who you are, then why are you hiding? She asked. I didn't really have an answer for that one, so all I did was smile. That's what I thought, she said. Then I pulled out a pair of glasses and put them on. What are those? Asked Margaret. Glasses, I answered, as if it were beyond obvious. Yes, but you don't wear glasses, she said. So I repeat, what are those? Okay, I whispered. Maybe they're spy glasses with a built-in camera that Agent Rivers gave me at Quantico. She shook her head and let out a sigh of resignation. I can tell this is going to turn out really well. All we're doing is playing toast, I reminded her. The glasses are so we can go back to the instant replay if we need to. All systems are go. Seeing Nevrescu in action completely changed my perception of him. Despite the intense death stare that was on display in all the photos we came across, in person he seemed charming, even from a distance. For example, when he'd meet someone, he'd always make sure to shake with one hand and clasp them on the arm with the other. It was friendly and warm, and definitely not what I expected. We watched him for about 15 minutes, making sure he never caught sight of us. The plan worked really well until I saw someone totally unexpected. There was a swinging door that led to the kitchen, and when it opened, I got a quick glimpse of a man loading a trash can. The door swung shut again before I could be certain, but he seemed to be wearing the same blue coveralls as the custodians who worked at the National Gallery. Did you see that? I asked Margaret. Did I see what? I headed for the kitchen and pressed the door just enough to look inside. Florian, where are you going? Asked Margaret, a hint of desperation in her voice. I just want to take a peek, I said, pushing it more. They were pretty specific about where we could and couldn't go, she reminded me. The key detail was that closed doors were a no-go. I pushed the door all the way open and said, but this door isn't closed anymore. Why are boys always this way? She said, shaking her head. I didn't stay to answer. I looked into the kitchen, and when I saw that no one was in there, I went all the way in. The only way I was going to get a decent look was to go into the next room. And now he's totally gone off the deep end, I heard Margaret say as the door swung shut behind me. I don't know what came over me, but I wasn't scared in the least. I was determined to find him. I strode right across the kitchen and entered a pantry, where 2 security guards were taking a cigarette break. What's this? Demanded one of the guards. I stammered for a moment and failed miserably as I tried to use the Romanian phrase for, where's the bathroom? I can't be certain, but I'm pretty sure I asked for the hovercraft. Speak in English, said the other guard. Oh, great, you speak English, I replied, my brain a total blank as to what to say. That means I can speak in English to you. I was still stammering away when a voice called out from behind. Johann, what are you doing? Agent Rivers had come to my rescue. He was dressed kind of nerdy in a plaid shirt with a name tag that read, Mr. Mike Evans, North Bethesda Middle School. And when he talked, his voice had an excitable quality to it. I'm so sorry, he said to the guards. My name's Mike Evans. I'm the art teacher at North Bethesda Middle. Go Firebirds! Anyway, I brought 2 of my best students here to fully immerse them into the culture of another country. Unfortunately, Johann here has a tendency to wander off where he shouldn't. What have I told you about that, Johann? Not to do it, I said, still totally confused as to how he got here, but so grateful that he did. Anyway, I was led to believe that there would be a display of traditional Romanian painted eggs that we could look at. As an artist, I feel they truly capture the spirit and heritage of your country. I'd really like to show my students those eggs, because next month we're going to be painting similar ones in class, and I think yours would give them an excellent target, creatively speaking. They are just exquisite. By the time he stopped talking long enough to take a breath, the guards had practically forgotten about me and were just looking to get back to their cigarettes. So, can you tell me where they are? Rivers asked. Where what are? One guard asked, confused. The eggs. The painted Romanian eggs. I'd like to show them to the students. Fine, he replied. The eggs are in the library. But no more wandering, okay? All eyes turned to me. I promise, I said. We left the kitchen and beelined for the front door. How'd you know I was here? I asked under my breath, once we'd gotten clear of the guards. Johann Blankfort sent a message to ask an agent, wanting to know where is the embassy of Romania. An odd question for an FBI agent, but certainly one that caught my attention. But I didn't send in any question, I said, even more confused. That was me, said Margaret, when I went to get my sneakers. You went behind my back? No, she saved your butt, Rivers corrected, although it may be short-lived because there's a decent chance I'm going to kill you when we get out of here. We made it to the entryway and were almost to the grand staircase when I saw Nikolai Nevrescu talking to a young woman in a blue dress. He seemed to be flirting with her. Right up until the point he looked our way. We may have a problem. When I saw Nevrescu signal a humongous bodyguard to come over to him, I corrected that statement. Oh yeah, we definitely have a problem.